Well, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning if you're already on tomorrow. We are joined here by Gustavo Estrada of ONIBEX. And before we get into our introductions for our first time audience, of course, we start with our guest introductions and then we talk about their company background and the industry trends that they're seeing. And then we usually dive into what's working well, what the challenges are, and some near term and long term goals. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Gustavo to the show. Welcome, Gustavo.
Thank you, Ian, for inviting me, and thanks everybody for the time.
Absolutely, my pleasure. How are you doing today, and where are you joining us from?
I'm in the Woodlands, Texas. It's very close from Houston. It's North Houston, and fantastic. It's been one of those times where being in technology is just exciting. So I have that pleasure of being working in some of these industry challenges that we're all embedded in. That's what we're gonna discuss today.
Amazing, amazing. So, tell us a little bit about your role beyond the title. Yeah, tell us everything that you do, and being the co-founder, there's more than one thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, I've been in the SAP ecosystem. Gustavo Estrada. I'm the CEO, founder of ONIBEX. We started our journey 10 years ago. But basically, before starting ONIBEX, I was an SAP practice director in one of in a consulting company, and we actually got the privilege, the recognition from SAP to be pretty much awarded the company that sold more net new logos here in America. So SAP is my passion. I've been working in SAP since 2003. Now it's going to be 22 years, 23 years. SAP, from the beginning has been something that has amazed me because of many different things. Starting from 2003, right, where, there was a new way of communication that was called web services that was so esoteric back then, right? Because back then everything was based on flat files and the web was just starting. So I had the privilege to work right from the beginning on building integrations and building web applications around SAP. So that got me excited into this world of how those integration work with SAP. You can make the information available, and that's what pretty much is still pushing me forward. And what we're doing with Onivex, basically, it's democratizing SAP data.
Got it. So I think that is a perfect segue into my next question for you, which was telling us a little bit about your organization's background. So heavily SAP, but yeah, tell us a little bit about what Onibex does on a day to day basis.
Very good. What we do is, like I said, what we want to do is democratize data, not in a way that anybody can access it. No, because you need to have security. You need to have those safeguards to make sure that the data is safe in the organization. But in the way that you feel comfortable accessing the data, right? For the ones that we have worked with SAP, we know that it's not easy to navigate SAP. You need to know some back in the day. You need to know some transaction codes. For instance, if you want to create a sales order, you needed to know that you have to go to BA01. If you want to
Sure.
create, an invoice or a material, a customer, you needed to know some of these not easy to remember codes. And same thing goes with the tables, right? I mean, if you want to build a report, you need to be a functional consultant or a technical consultant. So it's a challenge. If you want to extend SAP, if you want to feel comfortable with the application itself, that is so powerful, so flexible, just to think about it. 80% of the global commerce, 80% of those companies are using SAP ERP, from oil and gas to beauty. So that is your Exxons, your Nikes, your Adidas, even Microsoft is using SAP as ERP. So just imagine the flexibility and the complexity that the application must have to be, in those many different industries and it still be the best application when it comes to ERPs. So
For sure.
that's a little bit about organization. We're in this world of making people comfortable accessing SAP data in different ways, in different mechanisms.
Got it. And so, of course, coming from an ERP background myself, there's always, as organizations have grown, they have either resorted to customizing modules and elements that don't fit out of the box into their business model. How does democratization of data get impacted when there's a customer that has customizations in place in their SAP instance?
That's a very good question. So basically, you have SAP where a sales order is always a sales order, a material is always a material, right? So we know that the standard tables are always going to be there. It doesn't matter if you are in the chemical industry or in the beauty industry or even in retail. The tables, the core tables are always going to be the same. But then companies start to add these custom tables, these custom fields to the standard table, and you need to have a way to pretty much propagate that data across. So basically, what we have built, again, is something that we call One Connect. So this One Connect has a data modeler. One of the components of One Connect is a data modeler that is a drag and drop tool where we have already prepackaged the SAP standard data products. Think of a data product in three different categories: master data, customers, vendors, materials, etc. Those are master data. Transactional data, those are the business operations, sales orders, deliveries, invoices, production orders. So we have prepackaged those data products. What do I mean by prepackaged? SAP has these standard tables where under a sales order, for instance, you have, let's say, 7 different tables: the header, the items, the pricing, the status, etc., etc. So we already prepackaged inside a graphical data modeler the standard SAP tables. But then if you want to add your own custom table, your custom CDS view, because it also works with S/4HANA, you can just click a button, add your custom CDS view into this data modeler, drag it and drop it, and then just do the join, inner join, left join. The motto of ONIBEX is enjoy the experience. So
Yes.
we take that very seriously when it comes to how we make a solution that is going to be used by different type of users, where the use of the access to the data is going to be something that you get to enjoy. So that is one of the components of our solution, this One Connect. That is this data modeler where you can add the custom tables, custom CDS views, custom fields to these standard prepackaged data products that we have.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about your industry trends. So, what kind of trends are you seeing in the industry right now?
Very good. Then, it's all about AI, right? I mean, we all know that it's 2026. We are embedded in a new reality. It's just amazing. And just imagine 2 years ago, we were using Google as the primary source for us to do queries and information on the internet. That was just 2 years
Right.
ago.
Yes.
But now, yes, we still do Google things, but it feels like something from the past,
Yeah.
right? It's like if you have a question, you don't want to just put a question in the browser and get a list of web pages that you have to go one by one to get the information and then digest it in your head to get to the conclusion that you're looking. That feels like a far away rudimentary tool that used to be on a different generation, right? It's almost like watching the TV in black and white. There is no way that we're gonna go back to
Yes.
watching the TV on black and white. We have colors
Right.
TV, we have 4K, 8K TVs, and we don't want to go back. So now we have these amazing foundational models like Gemini, like Claude, like a ChatGPT that we can just ask a question. They do the job of getting the data from different sources and just give us the answer right there, digested for us, just to use it in whatever form we want. So
For
that is the
sure.
first, the main trend that we're seeing. How do we translate that from this scenario that is the consumer using general available information to translate that into this other enterprise world where we have data sitting in an ERP like SAP? How can we use the power of that technology for us to get access to the information in a way that we have never had it before?
For sure. Yeah, that very true. It does feel like going backwards in time when you're using Google's because the search engine has been replaced by the answer engine, right? And rather than what feels like you looking at ingredients to make your own food, you're getting a better, quicker, more palatable product using AEO instead of SEO. So
That's right.
for sure. So I want to talk to you about something you mentioned when we talked the last time. So the concept of free business value challenge, right? You talked about this a little bit. How does this approach overcome sales friction in large organizations And what are the key success factors for converting these challenges into long-term clients?
Very good. So something that we have done is we have this component of One Connect, right? That One Connect is pretty much the technology component that is going to allow us to move data in real time out of the ERP into a data repository. What data repository? The one that you want. We can move data to Databricks, to Snowflake, to Postgres database. That Postgres is gaining a lot of, it's very relevant right now. If you go into the Databricks website, for instance, in the databricks.com, they now have Lakebase, right? That is basically a Postgres database that is going to be used for agents to get the information and do some actions, take some actions from there, right? So and we can also move data to HANA database hosted on BTP.
Mhm.
So this One Connect component is something that is going to take the SAP events into another data repository. So that is the first component that we have based on these data products that we have already prepackaged. So in essence, we can move the entire SAP data from in real time from your ERP to another data repository. But that is not going to add value. That is going to help a lot, right? Now we have another second component. The other component is because, as you mentioned, what we're offering is free business value challenge. So it's not free proof of concept. It's not free move the data from point A to point B because that is not going to add any value. It's going to help us to get there faster, but it's not going to add value. Um, so we have this other component that we call the agentic semantic knowledge. This agentic semantic knowledge, what it is, basically, let's first break this agentic AI into components. Agentic AI needs tools or skills. So those tools are going to be pretty much what the agent is capable of doing. So we have the tools, we have memory. Memory is divided into short-term memory and long-term memory. Long-term memory is that data that is coming from SAP. Short-term memory is more about how you interact with the agent itself. So I'm pretty sure that even though both of us agent are using Gemini or ChatGPT, we interact in different ways because we have different lives and different needs in accessing data. So that short memory is going to be pretty much the way that you interact with the agent. Long-term memory is all of these real-time data that we're getting out of SAP into a database. So we have the tools that are the skills, what the agent is capable of doing. We have the memory that is divided into short-term memory, long-term memory, and we need something else that is the context. If I say hot dog is not a dog that is hot, it's a food, right? We are not because we know the context. Now we have learned every time that we heard something to pretty much go to our brain, get some context, and then get the picture of it. If I say hot dog, you're going to imagine food, you're going to visualize the food, and not a dog that is in flames. So our agents also need context. And that is what is going to ground them because we don't want those agents to hallucinate. So that element is extremely important. So now let's recapitulate because we have four ingredients to have a successful agent. One is the skills, the tools. Two is the short-term memory. That is basically the way that you interact with the agent itself. Three, the long-term memory that is the data that is that you're generating in your business into day-to-day operations. Then number four is the context. So basically this context, this semantic context is what we are calling this agentic semantic knowledge or ask for sure.
Yep.
So we're solving
Yep.
those two problems. Grounding, basically we have all of these because we have the data products from SAP. We know that the delivery is tied to a sales order and then an invoice and then a payment and a customer and materials, products, those kind of things. So we have that graph semantic knowledge. So that graph semantic knowledge is inside basically this agentic semantic knowledge. So that agentic semantic knowledge is connected to the data modeler. So when you pretty much customize those data products, one of the questions that you asked me was, how do you add those custom tables, custom fields to make them available?
Right.
We use the data modeler. So inside the data modeler, you have all of the different data products from SAP And then we use that rich semantic layer for agentic AI. So basically, we have two components. One connect, hyper-connected data products to move data in real time from SAP to other data repositories, and
Uh-huh.
ask agentic semantic knowledge. That is the
Right.
second component that is going to give the agents, whatever agents, it can be agents from Azure, AWS, you name it. And we're providing that grounding, that semantic knowledge to make agentic AI not to hallucinate.
Got it. So it looks like the ask or agentic semantic knowledge is governing the ETL process. So for those that are not familiar, ETL is just terminology for extraction, transform, and loading data between one system and another, or one system to a warehouse where it lives. So did I capture that correctly? Ask governs the ETL, standardizes or contextualizes the use and storage of this data.
It contextualizes the agents. So whenever you ask, for instance, the question, what is the last payment of customer 123?
Got it.
So you are saying customer, you are saying last, you are saying payment. So this ask agentic semantic knowledge is going to get your token from a foundational model and is going to pretty much get to something that we call the intent resolution. So you are asking about a customer. In SAP, the customer has these tables. You're asking about a payment. You're asking about the last. So we provide that rich semantic context for basically we have a way to provide the right semantics back to the model to say, hey, listen,
Uh-huh.
model, you don't have to do the search yourself because how you're going to let Gemini or ChatGPT know which are the tables that you're using inside SAP?
Sure.
How we're going to describe that there is a custom table to Gemini and or ChatGPT or Claude. It's impossible for them to know the customizations that you have in your organization.
Correct.
So because now we have this rich semantic coming out of the data modeler where you have all your custom tables and custom fields, basically that is the semantic layer to orchestrate the questions from the different agents that you can create in different platforms.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you for that explanation. I think that definitely helps put things in perspective. So, as the leader of the business, what metrics are you most focused on improving?
that's a very good question. So basically, for us, being on the forefront of innovation, it's a privilege, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge in the sense that when you are in the leading a segment of the industry, you have to educate. There is some education needs to be done. When the concept of integration, for instance, integration is not a new concept, but then event-driven architecture, it's something that is not well known inside SAP. So the challenge that we have is basically sending the message across. So something that we're focused on improving is the way that we transmit that message out. So that is one of the reasons why we're in this podcast, right? Because we need those outlets for us to democratize the information that we have about our business. So one of those, metrics that we're looking to improve is the reach of our technology to make it, to make the audience aware of how they can use OneConnect. um, I was talking about, in the previous question, sorry, because I deviated a little bit on about the business value challenge is basically we are offering solutions for free, inventory visibility, and you can talk to the inventory visibility. You can talk to these agents that we can give you agents for free in different areas, sales, production, finance, etc. And basically for us, something that we're looking to improve is how many business value challenges we are giving away for free is something that it takes us 15 hours for us to implement. So
Sure.
we're actually, trying to improve that metric.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, right, you're in business to turn a profit. And if you give away a lot of free stuff, then it's going to eventually start eating into your billability, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And at the end, we're not a service company. We are technology company. So we are the only company in the world capable of democratizing and getting business value, real business value with agentic AI in 15 hours. There is no other technology out there today in the world that is capable of moving data in real time as the event happens and talking to that data in real time with some real business value.
While we're talking about data, Anytime you do an ETL transaction, right? That is a point in time for that data. How do you keep that data updated? Because the data today is obsolete tomorrow. So, how do you manage that challenge?
Very good. So that is where the difference is between being connected and hyper-connected. So SAP is not a silo. It's not a system that lives in a silo. Like I mentioned, since the early 2000s, SAP has a way to connect via APIs. At the beginning, it was SOAP APIs, or it was RFCs, or it was, different mechanisms. But there has been always a way to communicate with SAP. The thing is, typically you go and ask SAP, hey, SAP, what is the status of this sales order? And you go and build some sort of API, some sort of interface. There are many different flavors. And then, build a custom application on top of that extraction. And from there, you start building these business use cases. So basically, we created something that you can use these data products and then just extract them in a way that is easy to send to anywhere, a CRM, an e-commerce, data warehouse, or whatever
Sure.
you want. So that component of hyperconnected, we are extracting not just data, but we're extracting the metadata. So now, because we're extracting the metadata, with the metadata inside SAP, you have, for instance, the business-friendly terms. So we have, for instance, that Matenar is material number. You have that Concern is customer number, etc., etc. But also we're
Yep.
extracting as part of the metadata, which are the data types. So we know that the material number is not a number, it's a chart and is 18 or 45 characters, depending if you are ECC or S/4HANA.
Yeah.
But also we know that there are primary keys.
Yep.
So we know that the table or CDS view has a primary key. And because we extract the primary key, we're using an engine that is called Kafka. This Kafka engine is capable of storing data and metadata through something that is a data contract. So basically, we have a way to create those tables in these schema registries for the metadata and storing the different, you know, primary keys for each of the tables and store the data in the topics, right? So let's say that you have a sales order with 10 line items and the customer calls after 3 days and change their mind. They don't need those 10 line items, they just need 7. So the
Sure.
account executive goes into the system and it makes the change of deleting 3 line items. And then the customer says, you know what? And instead of this amount of quantity, I want this other amount of quantity. So now you have the sales order 1, 2, 3, but instead of having 10 line items, you have 7 line items. So because we extract the metadata, you're going to have that exact same number in milliseconds. So the same
Very
amount that
good.
you're going to have in SAP, you're going to have it in the other database, and the data is going to be reflected in the same time, basically the same thing. So SAP is going to be your system of records, but now you have the capability of having multiple system of references. You don't need to go back to SAP to go and ask, what is the status of this sales order? What is the status of this production order? What was the last payment of this customer? That you have other systems of references that the agent can go and check and talk to that
Yeah.
long-term data and get the reality. That is the difference of being connected
And
versus
hybrid.
being hyper-connected.
It's very exciting. I could ask you so many more things on this, but I know we're kind of capped on time. But one other thing, as far as we're talking about hyperconnected, does the hyperconnectivity make it easier for EDI transactions because your your connectivity is within milliseconds? EDI transactions are dropping, 850, 855s, 856s back and forth all the time. How does that, I guess, in the shortest way possible, how does hyperconnectivity impact EDI transactions?
Very good, very good. You mentioned A50s, A10s, these EDI transactions. Those are data products. So when we say we have prepackaged data products, we said, for instance, sales order invoices. So right there, that is your 850 is the sales order
Right.
purchase order. So
Yep.
now you only have to translate from a canonical model
Hmm.
to another format. And then from there, you can have a canonical model that can integrate to many different things, including EDI, but including e-commerce, but including agentic AI, but including, many different applications and create as many use cases as you want, EDI being one of them,
Yeah.
that basically these A10, A50s are from X12, ANSI X12. But then in Europe, you have EDIFACT, right? That is a different
Yes.
format. But if you have
Yeah.
a canonical data model of your sales order, you always know what is inside of it. You only have to map that canonical model to the use case of EDI, to the use case of AI, to the use case of X, Y, and Z, e-commerce, etc., etc.
Yeah. That's great. That solves some real important critical problems that I've seen in my past. So thank you for sharing that. Just coming back to the business side of things, right? Who is your ideal customer? Or I guess what does your ideal customer look like?
Very good. So our ideal customer is the are companies that are looking to modernize their data ecosystem. Nowadays, of course, SAP is still at the heart of those business operations, but different that 26 years ago, 23 years ago, it was a different ecosystem. We didn't have that, rich ecosystem of Salesforce. It was not there. We didn't have
Mhm.
Workday. We didn't have these many different data warehouse solutions. Databricks didn't exist. The concept of data lakes was not there until the ends. So nowadays we have this huge technology ecosystem that all of those components are adding value. So our ideal customer, it's a company that is looking to future proof the data architecture and modernize their entire stack to make it available, compostable in a way that also is accessible for agentic AI and more.
Perfect. This has been a lot of fun getting to know everything you guys are doing, for data, especially in the ERP world where transaction data is just incrementally changing so fast. Let's talk about, you know, what's uh, let's talk about what's working well with your business versus what's been challenging. So, what's working well?
Very good. So what is working well is basically once we get the attention from a prospect, for us, we have an easy way to prove, not just with a PowerPoint, but in a demo, the solution that we have. So basically, once we get the attention from a prospect, we show them the demo using, an SAP instance, using HANA database or a Postgres database or a Databricks warehouse and moving the data in real time, and then having the capability to talk to your data now that we have generative AI is the foundation of agentic AI. So
Correct.
we have an easy way to show them some of those things and then we say, you know what? This is a demo from our systems. We can show you this connected to your SAP system, to your data warehouse for free in 15 hours. So this business value challenge that we're offering for companies to realize business value of, again, having real-time inventory situations, having real-time account receivables, or having real-time production monitoring, sales performance, and more. Those are, pretty much being very successful. We launched that at the end of last year, and we have been very, very successful showing some of that value to our prospects and executing these 15-hour free business value challenges.
Amazing. And then what's been challenging from a business perspective?
What has been challenging? It's actually again to get the word out for us. We're a company that we pivoted from doing SAP services into a technology company. So we pivoted in 2024. We're actually backed by Confluent that now got recently acquired by IBM. But we don't have those big deep pockets to go and spend millions of dollars in advertising. So it's been very challenging for us to get the word out of because when you say, you know what, I'm going to help you get the data out of SAP, that is not going to make the cut. There are a million ways to get the data out of SAP but there is no other technology that can hyperconnect SAP in the way that we do it. And then there are companies that say, you know what, I can live with data from yesterday. I don't need data from today. And that is true for the executives. But
Sure.
then just imagine, nowadays we're using Uber. Imagine Uber having the data from the driver 1 hour ago. Just imagine how inefficient that will be because
Correct.
you're waiting for your Uber and you are going to get out of the building or the house or wherever you are right at the moment that the driver is getting to your door. And that is an operational, efficient decision.
Sure.
You're not going to be standing out in the sun or just out there waiting for the driver to get to your location. So that is, the difference between operational intelligence and business intelligence. Business
For sure.
intelligence don't need real-time data. Operational intelligence need real-time data. Agents are meant to act on the operational side. So the thing is, again, even though a lot of companies, a lot of CIOs have heard about agentic AI, they don't understand the concept truly, to say, okay, yeah, I need a data strategy where the data is compostable, that is, reusable in a way that I can have many use cases. I need real time. I need not just the data, but also I need the metadata, all the semantics, and all of those semantics need to be connected, right? So that is our biggest challenge to evangelize the differences between being connected, hyper connected, and the difference between just moving data and moving data with metadata.
Absolutely. In terms of looking ahead into the future, right? What is your vision for data modernization, and what role will ONIBEX play in enabling predictive rather than reactive business operations?
Very good. So we're building now our own agents. So we started at the beginning of the year with a general SAP agent that basically was able to access to answer questions from different modules, right? I mean, production, procurement, sales, finance, you name it. But that was the agent was really strong, was really good. But something that we have to realize is that you have to create these virtual employees that have a specialization in one area, in one business area. So we start building agents now that are deeply specialized on sales and
Sure.
that are going to know the inventory from a sales perspective, are going to know your customers with their payments, with the different behavior. So we have ready a virtual employee on the sales side. We're building another one on the production side that is going to be very, very capable. And the next step for us is to give that ability that, again, we mentioned that the agents have tools or skills. So we're building new skills, not just for those agents to be able to react to real-time events, but react to events that haven't happened yet. So that is, for us the next step.
Predictive.
That exactly, yes. So that is coming in the pipeline for us.
Amazing. So that's coming, that's around the corner, huh?
That is around the corner, yes. So basically, first is build these agents that can act on real-time data that are specialized in certain areas. We
Yep.
have the sales. We're building the production. After that is the finance agent, and then right after that, that I see that happening in about 3 to 6 months, is going to start building those predictive scenarios where the agent is going to react to real-time data, but also is going to react to the possibilities of what is coming in the future. So basically, just imagine this, agent. Today, we go and look for the data, right?
Yep.
So tomorrow, the data is going to look for you. And that is going to happen very, very, very soon. So you're not going to have to initiate a conversation.
Sure.
That is going to happen in the next 2 months. In the next 2 months, the data is going to say, hey, listen, it's going to poke you. And
Yeah.
it's going to poke you through different devices. It's going to poke you through Teams, through
Sure.
Slack, through WhatsApp, through SMS, and say, hey, agent, the behavior of this customer is changing.
Yeah.
It was a loyalist customer, and now the pattern is changing because the customer hasn't changed, hasn't buy something in these many days, or the ticket size it's lowering, or there is something in the behavior of the customer that is changing. It might be good, it might be bad, but the
Yep.
data is going to look for you and is going to give you recommendations of what to do.
Yep.
So that is something that we have coming around the corner. And basically, what the next step with this predictive data is to predict the change of behavior of a customer. As you know,
Beautiful.
just imagine if you are on the sell side, you have to complete your quota every single, queue. So you're very busy knocking doors, but then you already have a base of customers that are, buying products from you. And it's hard for you to segment the behavior of a customer. It's hard for you because you're busy enough with your life, you're busy enough with your work, and it's hard for you to segment that data. So that agent is going to do it for you. So now you're going to be twice as capable of doing
Start.
your job. It's not that you were doing a bad job, but now
Yeah.
you're going to do a super job because of this virtual agent. So that is what we're enabling basically to say, hey, listen, that is what is happening right now, and that is the business value that we're delivering in as April 2026.
Wow. This is pretty groundbreaking. So I'm sure this is going to create a lot of buzz and uh, predictive agents that imagine, you've got an agent that is working in accounting and they're talking about AR and AP hitting the right people up, or if there's one that's in demand gen and is talking about certain demand trends that are trending up or trending down, helping those decision makers, uh, ramp up or ramp down production to deal with that demand. I think this is a pretty exciting time to live in as somebody in supply chain or even on the financial side, as far as ERP goes. Where do you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months as an organization and even beyond?
Very good. So something that we envision ourselves is to establishing the standard to enable AI agents. So creating an agent itself is very easy. Nowadays, to create an agent is something that you can use drag and drop tools. So the agent itself is not the challenge, but to get the data to the agent and to ground the agent is the challenge. So we want to become that standard when it comes to SAP companies using SAP as ERP. We want to become that de facto standard for if you know that you want to build agents, because all of us, it's not a question of if we want to build agents. It's a question of when you're going to get on board. So when the company is ready, and it better be ready sooner rather than later, because if you have these agents working for your competitor, that's where the difference is going to be, in the next few months. And this is happening very, very fast. So we can help the company. There are a lot of companies that say, you know what, I'm not ready. My organization is not ready. We don't even have a data warehouse. We don't even have a proper technology department. That's when we say, you know what? Forget all about those barriers. We can help you to leapfrog in technology. We can help you to do that leap to the next stage and go from no data warehouse at all to having a data warehouse connecting real time and having data talking, your employees talking to your data with no effort in plain English or any other language by the matter.
Yeah. Sounds like a great tagline, from no taking organizations with no warehouse, no data warehouse, to a smart data warehouse.
Exactly. To an agentic
Yeah.
data warehouse.
Agentic data warehouse. There you go. All right. As we wrap up, there's a fun question for you. If you
All
had
right.
a magic, all right. So if you had a magic wand, what is one thing you would fix in your business that is holding you back or slowing you down?
That is a very good question. Something that is a challenge. We're a remote first organization, and being a remote first organization has a lot of perks, but also a lot of challenges. So something that I will love for us to have is some sort of VR, this magic wand, right? Where we all can be sitting at home, but then having this, VR reality where we are in an office and just being capable of just getting out of your desk and just touching somebody's shoulder, say, hey, listen, I have this situation, I have this idea, and just make that happen in a way that it doesn't feel. Because today, if you just go in Teams and you just ring somebody else's contact, sometimes people feel that it's not appropriate, especially new
Yeah.
generations. They feel that you
Yes.
have to, you know, make an appointment, ask if you're available. That was not the way when we used to go into the office. Right?
Hey, it's up to us to keep that old trend alive, where it's okay to just call somebody because you're looking to resolve the issue, not schedule a meeting. What's the first
Exactly.
priority, right? Fix it.
Yeah, and it's just going to take a couple of minutes. But if you
Yeah,
do it over text, it's a lot different than than talking it in a video
correct.
conference.
Correct. That's why we always look for the green. Like if it's green and online, make that call, get it
Do
out of the
it
way.
exactly, 100%.
Gustavo, this has been an amazing conversation, very enlightening. And I've learned a lot about how ERP has evolved since I've been away from it. So all this intelligence is just, is giving me FOMO, fear of missing out. So I feel like I'm missing out having left those way back in the review. So thank you for helping me relive some of that excitement through your eyes.
Thank you for having me here in this podcast. I know that again we're helping each other. Thanks for having me here explaining a little bit about what we do, because that is part of the solution of the main challenge that we have, that is getting the word out. Thank you, Ayan.
No, for
Thanks,
for
everybody.
sure. Thank you. It's my pleasure having you, and hoping to keep stay in touch and see how you guys grow and explode onto the scene and hearing stories of what is to come.
Absolutely,
So,
100%. Likewise, Ayan.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.